Hello and a warm welcome to TBC News, our top stories. May Day with optimism. Positive strides in response to poaching.
Amending laws to increase penalties for wildlife-related offences.
Good evening, I am Faida Ngaga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBC Online. Also, get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter pages at TBC Online. President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan says the government will continue to improve workers' conditions, including reintroducing annual salary increment for civil servants and allowances from this year. Dr. Samia made the pledge in Morogoro during Workers' Day celebrations, insisting that the improvements will go hand in hand with the improving operations of the Occupational Safety and Health Authority, OSHA, so that they can fulfill their duties more efficiently. It's a report by Remy Asinti from Morogoro region, read by Apasia Ringo.
The day is eagerly awaited by various employees. It is a day that brings together employees and employers to discuss the future and their interests.
Wafanyakazi, mambo ni moto, mambo ni fire.
Nationally, the day has been celebrated in Morogoro region, and workers of public and private institutions and public organizations here are passing in front of the President, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, with optimism. First, some of the political leaders greet the workers present in the stadium.
Mmechangia kukuza uchumi wetu.
You have contributed to growing our economy through accommodation services, food and other goods that you received while you were here. Our intention is that this cooperation continues so that we can solve employment challenges together through discussion.
As we celebrate the Labor Day, it is time to prioritize social justice.
Next was the time for the Trade Union Congress of Tanzania, TUCTA, General Secretary, together with the Minister of State, Prime Minister's Office, Labor, Youth, Employment and Persons with Disability.
Kuna mazingira ambapo wafanyakazi wanakuwa wamekatwa 3%.
There is a situation where employees are deducted the 3% of their contribution, but the employer does not send it to the National Health Insurance Fund. Thus, it led to lack of services due to the delay of contribution of the concerned person.
You have done a lot in your period, not to mention new jobs. All who are present here and those at home are looking forward to hearing what the President has in store for the workers in Tanzania.
Mwaka huu kuna mavuno makubwa ya upandishaji wa viwango vya posho.
This year, there is a large harvest of increases in allowance rates, and they will be made available to you. Apart from increasing allowances this year, we are prepared to raise grades, positions. Recategorization will continue to be done, and grades will be available this year for those who missed last year.
Yale madaraja ya mserereko ambao hakupata mwaka uliopita, mserereko uko mwaka huu.
It didn't end there. Furthermore, the President continues to delight the workers who have gathered here.
Lakini niseme pia, kuna nyongeza za mishahara za mwaka.
Also, there are annual salary increases that were suspended for a long time, and I have seen them reinstated this year, and it will happen every year as it was before. My fellow workers, people are used to hearing something and then increasing prices in stores. This year will be different, and we will go slowly so that the price trend will settle.
Ili mwenendo wetu wa bei uwe salama.
Some of the workers were ready to express their delight. We believe what she promised about salary increases every year, grades and all the requests brought, I believe will be done. The celebrations of the International Workers' Day in Morogoro region was attended by various leaders, including ambassadors representing their countries here in the country, led by the Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania, Kassim Majaliwa.
The President of Zanzibar and the Chairman of the Revolutionary Council, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, has announced a pension increment for retirees as well as increasing community pensions. Speaking while marking the International Workers' Day celebrations held at Nungwi, Unguja North Region, Dr. Mwinyi has directed the minimum pension to be doubled, while the community pension to be increased by 150%. It's a report by Swaumu Mavura, read by Lelua Mohammed.
It's Workers' Day celebrations in Nungwi Stadium in Unguja, North Region. President of Zanzibar and the Chairman of the Revolutionary Council, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, is receiving the Workers' Parade. This day is celebrated to recognize the achievements and challenges of employees in their contribution to development.
With the great cooperation of your government, you have built the capacity of the institutions of works and the Court of Zanzibar to carry out their activities effectively. The issue of responsibility is the first pillar in our management, while responsibility and rights go hand in hand. But let's not forget to be more responsible. The ability and skills of works itself is also a basic issue.
The President of Zanzibar vows that his government will continue to improve the workers' interests and conditions.
Everyone is entitled to a new salary from July. If anyone misses it, it is our responsibility to make sure we give them their salaries because they deserve it. All those involved in the government, the Ministry of Work, the Ministry of Public Service, and the Treasury, let this work be done quickly. The pensioner who gets the lowest amount of all currently gets 90,000, so this will increase by 100% to reach 180,000, and all other retires will increase by different levels up to those who get the highest level.
In other news, Tanzania has made a significant progress in response to poaching of wild animals as well as the illegal export of forest products by profiling the acts as an economic offense. This has been revealed by the Police Operation and Training CP Awadh Haji in a training which aims at building the capacity of wildlife conservation to the 32 participants from 3 countries, including Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. They are specialized in investigative methods to counter transnational organized environmental crime with an emphasis on controlled delivery methods to reducing maritime trafficking of wildlife between Africa and Asia. Rehema Sababili has more.
Speaking during the event in the commercial city of Dar es Salaam, CP Awadh Haji said that for the last 10 years, Tanzania's conservation strategies have paid off by reducing the poaching rate by 90%, resulting in the increase of numbers of wild animals such as elephants by 40% between 2014.
Notable achievements include profiling wildlife crime as an economic offense, amending laws to increase penalties for wildlife-related offenses, establishing and operationalizing the National Task Force on Poaching, which has led to the arrest of over 2,300 poachers and the identification and penetration of 11 wildlife trafficking syndicates.
On the other hand, the director of the task force of the Lusaka Agreement on Wildlife Conservation, Edward Phiri, and some other international stakeholders cited the issue of poaching as an international which requires joint strategies to overcome.
In the past, we had huge numbers of elephants, rhinos, pangolins being trafficked to the Far East and making government lose millions in dollars in revenue. So that's how serious this crime is. And because of this seriousness, there has been this attention to ensure that we do everything possible to combat the crime.
Because it is so crucial, because that's what permits you from one seizure at the port or at the border to be able to identify the whole criminal organization. So this training, they're going to be out on the street working, and at the end, on Saturday, they're going to be coming here, and they're going to do what we call a prosecution memo or an opinion, okay? And they're going to present the whole case based on the interviews.
The training, which is coordinated through the Lusaka Agreement, aims at putting in place joint enforcement of operations directed at illegal trade in wildlife, fauna and flora, fostering cooperation to combat wildlife and forest crimes in Africa. Reporting from Dar es Salaam, Rehema Sebabili, TBC News.
Thank you very much, Rehema Sebabili, for that report. And now let's head over to Njombe, where the Njombe Regional Commissioner, Anthony Mtaka, says President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan has given 15 billion shillings as compensation to those who have to leave their houses to pave a way for the coal and steel projects in Ludewa district. Mtaka was handing over the Uhuru torch to Iringa region after winding up its campaigns in the 6 councils of Njombe region. Apasia Ringo has more details.
Njombe Regional Commissioner Anthony Mtaka made the statement in Kilolo District when he was handing over the Uhuru torch to Iringa region immediately after finishing its campaign in the 6 councils of Njombe region.
I would like to thank the President for giving 15 billion shillings to compensate those who will vacate the area of Ndaligane project, and this work will be done very soon.
Mtaka uses the opportunity to announce opportunities for large-scale investment projects, including the ones in the area of iron and coal projects, as well as the avocados farming in Njombe district. During the Uhuru Torch race in Njombe region, a total of 11,800 trees have been planted, including commercial trees, fruit trees, and trees for conserving water sources.
I welcome you back to Njombe, where you will find a place on our Itangas farm with 87,000 hectares and 60,000 hectares to cultivate avocados.
On his part, the Uhuru Torch Race leader 2023, Abdallah Shaibu Kaim, apart from praising the efforts to preserve the environment, the water sources in the Njombe region, he has also continued to emphasize the preservation of those sources and avoid invasion and destruction of the sources.
You educate and motivate Tanzanians on the climate change, conservation of the environment and water sources through the slogan, "Take care of environment, save water for the well-being of living organisms and the national economy." I assure you, Regional Commissioner, this slogan has been put into practice in Njombe region. We have planted enough trees. We have visited the tree farms in a big project, and you have certainly done a good job. Njombe is green, rain are falling, and agriculture is sufficient. Congratulations to the Regional Commissioner.
The Uhuru Torch in Njombe region has covered 517 kilometers in 4 districts and has inspected 45 projects worth more than 9 billion Tanzanian shillings.
The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism, Dr. Hassan Abbas, says Tanzania continues to benefit from the Royal Tour film, which has been watched by approximately 1 billion people around the world, hence in turn contributing to the increase of tourists in the country. Dr. Abbas was speaking at the end of the seminar involving more than 1,000 tour guides, urging the tour guides to protect tourist attractions and other resources in the country for the future and present generation. Here's a report by Sitilela Kongola, read by Lulua Mohammed.
The government has been making various efforts to promote the tourism sector, and now the tourism stakeholders are identifying plans to add to the list the forgotten tourist attractions, including the Mkomazi Reserve in southern Tanzania.
There are a lot of jobs in the reserve right now. Let's direct our energy in these small reserves that have attractions and are accessible. For example, the Southern Reserve, which is the only reserve bordering the sea.
The Mkomazi is the reserve with many black rhinos, where the government, together with TANAPA, has invested a lot of money, but it is not visited by many tourists. So we've met here to remind each other and to show that the Mkomazi Reserve is ready to promote itself. The goal is to unite the tourism stakeholders and increase the capacity of tour guides to match the sector's market.
The purpose is to continue to build mutual understanding in the various procedures we have put in the place to have sustainable tourism, in parallel with ensuring that when tourists visit our reserves, they are provided with the best services.
Government notes the importance of preserving and inheriting the important values of tourism for future generations.
The goal is to ensure that we do conservation. We must all be ambassadors in conservation, not only in guiding tourists, because we will not be able to get tourists or these interests that you requested if the animals are lost or other attractions such as waterfalls dry up.
Now let's have a look at other stories. Cereal and Other Produce Board of Tanzania, CPB, is expected to build a maize flour processing plant and increase maize flour production in Songea municipality in Ruvuma region, aiming to expand the market for maize. Is a report by Noela Njawa, read by Lulua Mohammed.
Chairman of the CPB board, Salum Awadh, in a meeting with board stakeholders to discuss how to expand the market for maize products in Ruvuma region.
We will improve infrastructure here. We will build warehouse that will have infrastructure to clean grains, set up bridges, and all services that farmers need.
Awadh also elaborates that stakeholders who cultivate grain crops are allowed to use infrastructure set by the CPB board.
When people have their crops wherever they are, we can put infrastructure in place for you to deliver them so that we can buy them at the market price. And since we cannot buy all the crops, we can find the market in other places.
Stakeholders and CPB board say that by CPB increasing the market for green crops and the availability of agricultural inputs will increase farmers' productivity.
My request is that these forces be sent directly to the villages. You will only need to guarantee the village executives because they know they are farmers.
The official guest of honor at this CPB board meeting is the Songea Municipal Director, Dr. Frederick Sagamiko.
In the business chain of this crop, the time has come for you to do business with people who just need a little more knowledge on how to reach the relevant market.
Ruvuma region leads in the country in the grain crops production, especially maize.
Item concludes local news. All the latest in international news up next. Let's have a look at international news with Apasia Ringo.
The former Prime Minister of Sudan, Abdallah Hamdok, has warned that the ongoing violence in his country could deteriorate into one of the worst civil wars than those experienced in Syria and Libya if the fighting is not stopped. The former premier is now calling for a truce between the warring generals from both the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces. Hamdok was answering questions for Mo Ibrahim, who is the founder of the Ibrahim Foundation, when he also called for a strong and unified approach by the international community in helping end the conflict that poses greater risk to millions of Sudanese. The former leader further insisted that there should be a defined role of the military in Sudan rather than engaging in politics and the leadership of the country. The fighting is the result of a power struggle between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, head of the Rapid Support Forces. The UN World Food Programme has warned the unrest could plunge millions more into hunger in a country where 15 million people already need aid to stave off famine. President of Kenya, William Ruto, has said his government is seeking to sign 10 new bilateral agreements that will see Kenya send more workers to European, North American, and Middle Eastern countries. Addressing Kenyans during the Labor Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, the president said most of those workers will go to Germany, which he said has recently been lobbying for Kenyan workers. He said he will host the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Kenya later this week and sign bilateral labor agreements to that effect. He has a list of many countries asking for Kenyan workers, and among those countries with which the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection in Kenya will also ink deals are Canada and Saudi Arabia. He said the money that the government gets every year from Kenyans in the diaspora is 400 billion Kenyan shillings. That is even more than what the government gets from exporting tea, coffee, and horticulture. And Santiago Pena has won Paraguay's election, returning the conservative Colorado Party to government after a tightly contested campaign that had threatened to end its 7-decade hold on power. The 44-year-old economist and former finance minister had 42.7% of the vote, with more than 99% of ballots counted, that enabled him to defeat his opponent, Efrain Algram, a 60-year-old lawyer from the Concertation Coalition. Speaking before his supporters in his victory speech, Santiago Pena has said they have a lot to do after the last years of economic stagnation, of fiscal deficit. The task that awaits them is not for a single person or for a party.
That was international news. Sports news is up next. And here is sports news with Mario Cheto.
Confederation of African Football CAF had condemned unruly behavior by action of supporters during 2 CAF Champions League fixtures in Tunis and Morocco on last Saturday, as Esperance Sportive de Tunis faced JS Kabylie and Raja Casablanca versus El Ahly in Casablanca. CAF General Secretary Verone Mosengo Omba says the matter will be handed to the competent bodies to investigate and take appropriate action after the match had to be disrupted for several minutes when some supporters threw objects on the field. Mosengo Omba adds that the scene in Tunis and Casablanca were unacceptable, and the CAF cannot tolerate such kind of behaviors in football. CAF will hand over the matter to its judicial structures for further investigation. The Permanent Secretary and Minister of Culture, Arts and Sports, Said Yakubu, says his ministry has formulated a special committee which will investigate the power cuts during the matches at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam. Speaking in Arusha, Permanent Secretary Yakubu said the committee should find out the reasons for power cuts at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium so as government could take action before the semi-finals of Confederation Cup match between Young Africans and the Marumo Galaxy of South Africa. What we want from the committee is to find out what is the problem of power supply in the stadium. Secondly, what happened during the match by using their expertise. And the third, they have to suggest what should be done to prevent power cuts during the matches. The committee will be led by TANESCO, Tanzania Building Agents, and TAMESA. The Tanzania Women Handball National Team head coach Moshi Ali says his players are ready to fight for African Championship glory after triumph in the African Handball Championship Zone 5 ended in Dar es Salaam recently. Coach Ali reveals that players have gained huge experience and skills during the African Women Handball Championship Zone 5, and they are ready to apply in coming African Women Handball Championship.
This is a big achievement to Tanzania, because we have qualified to compete in zone champions. Therefore, we will start doing preparations in the coming next month. We are ready to face challenges in African.
Tanzania beat Kenya by 39 goals to 29 and won the championship. And Tanzania have introduced American football, which will be played in secondary schools, aimed at strengthening sports in the country. Benjamin Mkapa Secondary School sports teacher Sleman Muhina said the game is expected to create employment opportunities to youth and other sports stakeholders.
The game is very entertaining. Also, will provide employment opportunities because in other countries the game has reached the age of competitive. And in Africa, the game is introduced in Ghana and other African countries.
Ameenda nchi nyingine 5, Algeria, Zambia na nini.
4 secondary schools led by Jangwani, Juhudi, Benjamin Mkapa and Gerezani will kick off the American football competition in Dar es Salaam.